Good evening. Welcome to Yebo Tutor live stream help. At this time of the hour, we hope that we'll be able to assist each other and we'll push and continue working hard. Finally, now, today we'll be doing calculus. I've been receiving questions from our WhatsApp group. Others are texting me privately and they want calculus. So calculus is a paper one topic which consists of plus or minus 35 marks. It consists of plus or minus 35 marks. So we are doing calculus right away. So if it's your first time to tune in, don't forget to subscribe. It's gonna be a nice 30-minute session which we're gonna have that will be able to explain calculus and just enjoy. Don't be afraid to type in your comment on the comment section and don't be afraid to ask any question if you have anyone. Great. Now looking at the question which we are looking at today, we'll be doing calculus from 2021. So as you can see on the screen, this is question 9 from 2021. Let's check it out. So find f prime of x from the first principles if it is given that f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 3x. So the keyword there is that from the first principle. So what is important about calculus is to be able to understand some few things which are so important. So now we are solving question number 9. So when we are solving question number 9, I want you to be having this in your mind that when we are solving calculus, you must be able to apply the rules and be able to understand what the question wants. For instance, when we are deriving, you must be able to understand that there are different rules which you're supposed to apply. So in this instance now on number 9, question 9.1, they are saying that derive, or they're saying determine f prime of x from first principles if it is given that f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 3x. So what are we given? We are given f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 3x. So that is what we are given. So the first thing, we have already written it down that we are given that f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 3x. Now let's move forward. So what is important from this is to understand what is the formula which we're going to use to be able to determine the f prime of x. So first time to tune in on Yebo Tutor, we have a video explaining the basics of calculus, so please do check it out. It's already there. Now we are just doing our final exam preparation. So now let's go. So now f prime of f of x is equal to the limit as h approach 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. So now we are given f of x, but we don't have f of x plus h. So what is f of x plus h? F of x plus h will be equal to 2. Where there is x, now we are substituting with x plus h. So it's going to be x plus h all squared minus 3x plus h. This is equivalent to 2. Then this is x squared plus 2hx plus h squared minus 3x minus 3h. This is now 2x squared plus 4hx plus 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h. Then therefore now we can substitute in our f prime of x equation, which says it is the limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h. So what is f of x plus h? It's what we have already calculated this part. So we're going to write 2x squared plus 4hx plus 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h minus what was our f of x? Our f of x is what we were given initially to be equivalent to 2x squared minus 3x. So we are subtracting 2x squared minus 3x. So now it's going to be positive 3x. Then we divide all through by h. This and this will cancel. This and this will also cancel. Then we are now left with the limit as h approaches 0 of 4hx plus 2h squared minus 3h divided by h. Then the limit is h approach 0. Then we look for the common factor of the numerator. When we look for the common factor on the numerator of h, then we'll be left with 4x plus 2h minus 3. Then you divide all through by h. This and this will cancel. Then now we are left with the limit as h approach 0 of 2x 4x plus 2h minus 3. Then when h is equal to 0, we will be left with 4x minus 3. So this will be our f prime of x when we determine it using the first principles. So the key word was the first principles. So this is the equation which we use. F prime of f of x is equal to the limit as h approaches to 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x divided all through by h. Then you will get your mark. Great. Now moving on to the next question, which is question number 9.2. So 9.2, determine dy over dx if y is equal to 4x to the power 5 minus 6x to the power 4 plus 3x. So the first thing we write y is equal to 4x to the power 5 minus 6x to the power 4 plus 3x. Now we want to determine dy over dx. So how will we be able to do that? So let me just recap you guys and just remind you of something which is important. So one of the rules of being able to derive on calculus is what we call the power rule. So for instance, if you are given y is equal to a x to the power n, the derivative of this will be dy over dx is equal to n multiplied by a times, just do this, n multiplied by a times x to the power n minus 1. So this is the power. So we're going to apply that same wisdom, that same knowledge which we have already known, and now we apply and solve on this instance. So 5 times 4 so now we are determining the derivative dy over dx. So we are deriving y in terms of x. So 5 times 4 is 20. Then x 5 minus 1 it's 4. Minus 4 times 6 it's 24. Then 4 minus 1 it's 3. Then 1 times 3 is positive 3, and 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. Then x to the power of 0 is equal to 1. Then we will be left with dy over dx, which is equivalent to 20x squared minus 24x cubed plus 3. Then you are done with that question. Now moving on to 9.2.2. That was 9.2.1. So now moving on to 9.2.2 question. Now we must listen to what it wants. So we are given dx negative cube root of x over 2 plus 1 over 3x all squared. Okay, so this one seems to be tricky, but don't hesitate anything, because we know that the first thing which we are supposed to do in these kind of questions is that we start by removing the algebraic letters from any sets and make sure that we have in simplest form. Okay, so now this is x squared root cube root of x, so this is the same as negative of x to the power 1 over 3 divided by 2 plus this now multiplied so it's going to be x to the power negative 2 over 9, because 1 over 2 square 1 over 3 squared is 1 over 9, then 1 over x is 1 over x squared. So when we transpose x to be, the numerator has been x to the power negative 2. So this part here, okay, so this part here is coming when we have 1 over 3x all squared is the same as 1 over 3 squared multiplied by 1 over x all squared. So this will be 1 over 9 multiplied by 1 over x squared. So when we make this denominator to be the numerator, it will be now x to the power negative 2 divided by 9. Then we are able to get this part which we have there. So now we can be able to derive with no problems, with no worries. So we can still have dx, then that will be negative 1 over 2 x to the power 1 over 3 plus 1 over 9 x to the power negative 2. Then now we can apply the power rule. So 1 over 3 multiplied by negative 1 over 2, that's negative 1 over 6 x, then negative 1 over 3 minus 1, then we get our negative 2 over 3. Then negative 2 multiplied by 1 over 9, that will be negative 2 over 9 x to the power of negative 2 minus 1, then we get negative 3. So you can leave your answer as negative 1 over 6 x to the power negative 2 over 3 minus 2 over 9 x to the power negative 3, or you can leave it in the simplest set form or in the positive form. So when you leave this in the positive form, which means you are making the exponents to be positive, so you end up with negative 1 over 6 x 2 over 3 minus 2 over 9 x to the power 3. Now you can see that the exponents are in the positive form. So just to come back here again, so we were given this expression. So in order for us to be able to determine its derivative, we were able to see that, okay, we are given a cube root of x, and also we're given 1 over 3x all squared. So what did we do first? We started by breaking that cube root into making it to something which we can work with. So we were able to see that, okay, when we release this from, like, according to the rules of exponents, we will have x to the power 1 over 3 and 1 over 3x when it's squared. I did like an example right now. Then we're able to see it's 1 over 9x squared. Then after that we transpose, or no, sorry, we take the denominator to be the numerator. Then now it's going to be x to the power negative 2. Then after that we are all happy and we are ready to go. Then after that we were able to reach to this stage. Then we have negative exponents. So since we are good with what we do, we solved it and we left it in positive exponents. And that is that on that question. Let's now move forward. Bear in mind that our motto for this final examination: 3 marks, 3 minutes. Don't spend more time on allocated marks. For instance, if it's 4 marks, spend 4 minutes on that question. Don't overdo it. Please don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. Great. Now let's do the last 15 marks of the day. Today it's just calculus. It's just calculus, guys. So on question number 10, so the graph of h of x is equal to ax cubed plus bx squared is drawn. The graph has turning points at the origin, or we can see that which is 0 is to 0, and as well as b, which is 4 is to 32. Then a is the x-intercept of h. So definitely we already know the coordinates of a, that the coordinate of a will be a x is to 0. Okay, so what is important on this question, guys, is for us to analyze it. So what there is power in analyzing the questions like this. So what are we given? We are given the graph which is h of x is equal to ax cubed. We're given our graph which is x cubed plus bx. And what else are we given? We are given the turning points, that we have the first turning point which is 0 is to 0, and the another turning point which is 4 is to 32. So these are the turning points of our graph. And also we were told that a is the x-intercept of the graph. So what do we mean when it's an x-intercept? That means that the y value of a is already equal to 0. Now, let's now look on the question. We have already analyzed. So the trick behind everything is for you to be able to first analyze what you are given. Then after that, you use what you have analyzed so that you can get correct answers. Now, let's go. Let's go now. Let's go. Cool. Now, on 10.1, show that a is equal to -1 and b is equal to 6. So when we were reading what we were given initially, we were able to realize that, oh, okay, cool, we are given turning points. So what do we know about the turning points of a calculus function? We know that we must first find the first derivative of the original function. So let's do that. So what do? We find h prime of x, which will be equal to 3a x squared plus b. Then what do we know about this? We know that uh, at turning point, always h prime of x will be equal to 0. So now we are equating 3a x squared plus b is equal to 0. So now we were given two coordinates of our turning point. So what is important is to understand that at the turning point, we were able to get the x value of the turning point of the graph. So since we are given the coordinate 0 is to 0 as well as 4 is to 32, so we will use those two values. So for the first one, we use 0 to 0, so it's going to be 3a multiplied by 0 squared plus b is equal to 0. Okay, then after that, we'll be able to get our answer. So let me just check something. Let's check something. If I did something which is making sense, 3ax squared. So let's start with 4 first. Maybe it will make more sense. So if x is equal to 4, so it's going to be 3a 4 squared plus b is equal to 0. So let's check. Is it bx? Oh, it's bx squared. Sorry for that, guys. So it's going to be bx as well here. Then now we have our 4b. Check something. Let's take it. Forgive me for that. So it's going to be 2bx. Yes. 2bx. 0. Great. Sorry for that. Then now we substitute x is equal to 4. Now we're looking at this point. It's going to be 4 there. Then 2b multiplied by 4. Then 4 squared is 16. Then 16 times 3, that's 48. Don't worry yourself. Use your calculator. It's there to save your day. So 48a plus 8b is equal to 0. Then this will be our equation number 1. Now, original function, let's substitute the point 4 is to 32 in h of x, which is the original function. So how do we do that? This is y, this is x, so it's going to be 32 equal to, what is our a? We don't know. What is our x? Our x is 4. cubed plus bx squared. So that will be 32 equal to 4 cubed, it's equal to 64a plus 4 squared is 16b. Then this will be our equation 2. Now, we can make our lives easier by just simplifying this one. So before we make it equation 2, we can divide all through by 16. So we can just say we have 32 minus 64a is equal to 16b. Then we divide all through by 16. Then now we have our b equal to, then therefore b will be equal to 2 minus 4a. Then this will be our equation number 2. So now we can substitute equation number 2 into equation number 1. So where we see b, now we'll put 2 minus 4a. So here we go, 48a plus 8, our b is 2 minus 4a equal to 0. So now we have our 48a plus 16 minus 32a equal to 0. Then 48 minus 32 will give us 6 1 is equal to negative 16 divided by 16 divided by 16. Then our a will be equal to negative 1. Then now substitute a equal to negative 1 in 2 so that you get the value of b. So now b, then therefore b will be equal to, we said it's 2 minus 4a, so it's 2 minus 4 multiplied by negative 1. Then we get our value of b to be positive 6. So the question was saying, show that a will be equal to negative 1 and b is equal to 6. So we were able to show that. So how did we do that? Let me just give you a quick recap. So we say that in order for us to determine the value of a and b, we were given initially, when we were analyzing that, we were given the function h of x, which is equal to ax cubed plus bx, and we are given that we have two turning points. The graph is turning when it's 0 is to 0, which is the origin, as well as when the graph is 4 is to 32. Then after that, we were also told that a is the x intercept of the function h of x. So the fact that they said it's an x-intercept, definitely we already know that our y is equivalent to 0. So since our y is equal to 0, of course we already know the coordinate to be x is to 0. So since we know the turning point, what is the trick, or what do we know more about the turning point? We know that at the turning point, the h prime of x will be equal to 0. So we apply the same thing, then we say the turning point, our h prime of x is equal to 0. So we know that at the h prime, or at the derivative of the function, it has a specific x value. So since we're given the x value of a point, so we substitute with that point, which is 4 in this instance. Then after that, we made our equation 1. Then after that, now we substitute that point again in the original function which we were given. Then we made our equation number 2. So now solving your x. So paper 1 basically is about just solving x. So you're just applying what you have already done on solving for x. So we just solve our x there. Then we'll be able to realize that, okay, cool, 16a is equal to negative 16. Then we manipulate that, we divide both sides by 16 by 16. Then we get our a is equal to negative 1. Then after that, we substitute the value of a into our equation 2, because we had already set equation 2 there. Then we get our value of b to be positive 6. So now we are able to show that a is equal to negative 1 and b is equal to positive 6. Hope you're enjoying, guys. Please just type something so that at least I know that we are all together. Now on 10.2, write down the coordinates of a. Of course, when we were analyzing, we already said that the coordinates of a, they are easy. Why? Because the coordinates of a is the x-intercept, so its x is to 0. So what is the original function now? So h of x is equal to negative x cubed plus 6x squared, because we have already calculated the value of b. and also the value of a. So we substitute into the original function, which was initial h of x is equal to ax cubed plus bx squared. So now our a will be negative x cubed because it's negative 1. Then our b is going to be 6x squared. So since we know that this is an x-intercept, which means our y will be 0. So 0 will be equal to negative x cubed plus 6x squared. Then now again, we are playing with our solving for x. Then we have negative x plus 6. Then after that, we end up having our x equal to 0 or our x equal to positive 6. So these are the two values of x. But looking at where 6 point A is, you can see that this is on the positive side of the function, or on the positive side of the x-axis. So then therefore our a will be 6 is to 0. Then now we have another point. Then you get your 3 marks because you were able to realize and to conclude that that's where we find our a. Now, write down the values of x for which h is increasing. So this is so easy and straightforward, guys. When does a cubic function increase? That's your first question. Don't ask yourself many questions. Your first question will be, where does this graph increase? So that's direct. Where does it increase? It increases when f prime of x is greater than 0. It's going to be increasing. So now let's just start by looking at our question. So where is this function increasing? It's increasing. You can see that from 0 to 4 our function is increasing. We can actually see this one, it didn't have to calculate it, so we can actually see that, okay, cool, this graph is increasing 10.3.1. It is increasing on this segment from point O to the x value of b. And bear in mind that these values are not included. So it will be 0 less than x, 0 less than 4. And after that, we get our value there, and everyone is happy. So this graph is increasing when x is between 0 and 4. Okay, please, please, please always know that it will be increasing when x is equal to 0 or x equal to 4, or when 0 is less or equal to x less or equal to 4. Okay, so someone will be lazy to write this, so you can just write 0 is to 4. So someone also will be lazy to write this, so you can just write 0 is to 4, but now you include, or you use the included bracket. There we have it. We are all happy. We are cruising nicely. We are solving our calculus. Now let's move forward to 10.3.2. So on 10.3.2, concave down. Where does the graph concave down? So we can see that the graph concave down. Where specifically? Where does it concave down? So in order for us to find where the graph concaves down, it's not that hard, guys. It's not. It's not. How do we find that? How do we find out the graph concave downwards? How do we find that the graph concave downwards? You can look at your graph, of course. But how? Because like there is like an equation which you are supposed to use. If you still remember from our sessions which we had, you can actually realize that, okay, cool. There is a way in which you can be able to see that. Okay, cool. So you must determine the second derivative. So our h of x is negative x cubed plus uh, plus 6x squared. Then h prime of x is equal to negative 3x squared plus 12x. Then h prime of x is equal to negative 6x squared, no, negative 6x, sorry, plus 12. So the graph, always know that the graph concave down when the second derivative, in this instance we're talking about h of x, is less than 0. Now our second derivative will be negative 6x plus 12 is less than 0. Then let's solve that. Negative 6x is less than negative 12. We divide by negative 6. We divide by negative 6. then our x now will be greater than positive 2. Then this is when the graph concave down. So the graph, cubic function graph, they concave up when the second derivative is greater than 0, and they concave down when the first derivative of the cubic function is less than 0. Then after that, you get your full marks for being able to see that part. Now the next question says, for which values of k will negative of x minus 1 cubed plus 6 x minus 1 squared minus k equal to 0 have one negative and two distinctive values? So in order for you to see that part, or to be able to see that answer, it's also not hard, because now you'll be able to see that, okay, let's just say that we have a new function. Okay, let's take it like, okay, cool, we have a new function, so we are now on 10.4. So let's save this mindset. Okay, now let's create a new function. So for instance, we are creating the new function f of x, which is equal to h x minus 1, which is equal to negative of x minus 1 squared, sorry, cubed, plus 6 x minus 1 squared. So we can actually see that, oh, okay, the original function has been shifted 1 unit to the right. All right, great. So if we look for f of 0, we can actually see that it will be 0 minus 1 is 1 cubed, then that's negative, plus that, then we get our positive 7. Okay, cool. So now we can actually see that the value of k must be between 32 and 7. So we were able to find that, okay, cool, because now since the graph has been shifted, so we must be able to realize that, okay, cool, we just do the simple calculations and we get our answer just like that. So you can write it in this format, or you write it as 7 to 32. Okay, you still get your full marks. So some others don't want to write in notation form, others would love to write in notation form. So one of the two is correct, so don't worry yourself, everything is sorted for you. So that was that 15 marks. Then I think let's just do the last question for the day on calculus, which is question 11. Which is question 11. Question 11. So on question 11, after traveling a distance of 20 kilometers from home, a person suddenly remembers that he did not close the tap in his garden. He decides to turn around immediately and return home to close the tap. Please make sure that whenever you are done using water, close your taps, because water is now getting scarce. Okay, please make sure that you don't do like this guy after he's traveled a long distance, and then when, oh, I left the shower open. So please make sure that when you're done bathing, you close. When you want to bath, open and bath. Don't waste water. Okay, we are approaching day 0, so please be cautious of water. But nonetheless, let's proceed with our question 11. So after he had traveled 20 kilometers from home, he remembers that he did not close the tap in his garden. So he decided to turn around immediately and turn home to close the tap. After 20 kilometers, he decided to go back. The cost of water at the rate at which water is flowing out of the tap is 1 rand 60 per hour. The cost of petrol is 1,2 plus x over 400 rands per kilometer, where x is the average speed in kilometers. Calculate the average speed at which the person must travel home to keep his cost as low as possible. So in this question, guys, it's not that tricky. So what are we applying in this question? We are applying now the concept of maximizing. We are applying the concept of rate of change. So what is important is to determine time. What is time? So time, we know that time will be equal to 20 over x, distance over over speed. Okay. Now, because we also don't know the speed, but we know the distance which you have covered, which is 20 kilometers. So I think grade 10, we're told that distance is speed times time. So time will be distance over speed. That's grade 10, grade 9, grade 8, yeah, those kind of grade. Great. Then after that, what were we told? We were told that the cost will be equal to the water cost per hour multiplied by time. Then we add distance which you traveled plus the amount per kilometer. So what is the cost per water? So we know that that's going to be easy for us. It was given as 1,6 per, so 1,6 is the cost per hour. Then you multiply by our time. Our time is this, so it's going to be 20 over x plus the other part now, kilometers which you covered is 20 plus r will be like our x over, sorry, so it's 20, then we have our 1,2 plus x over 4,000. Then we can just say this is our c of x, so that at least we have a function, something which we are used to. C of x will be 1,6 times 20, that's 32 over x, then plus that will be 20 times that, then we have 24 plus x over 200. Okay, cool. Then now we determine was what the average speed. Okay, so the average will be equal to negative 32 over x squared, because now we know how to derive first using the power rule. Then the derivative of a constant is equal to 0. Then that one will be positive 1 over 200. Okay, then what do we know? That we know that it's what did they ask us again? They asked us so that we know which English can we have part. After the average speed that person must so it's the average speed. Okay, so at average speed, c prime of x must be equal to 0. So now let's go. Negative 32 over x squared plus 1 over 200 is equal to 0. So that will be 32 over x squared is equal to another 200. And that will lead us saving x squared is equal to 32 times 200, 0, 0. 32 times 200, 32 times 0 is 0, 0, and 64. So we can actually get it 6,004. Then for that we spread both sides, then it can either be positive or negative, but since we are talking about the speed, it can never be negative, so our answer will be positive or negative. And square root of this, we use our calculator, then we get 80 kilometers per hour. But since we are talking about the speed can never be negative, so our answer will be 80 kilometers per hour. Then you get your 7 marks for being able to realize that part. So that was all I had prepared for you guys today for calculus. This is 2021 paper. So please, if you have any question, don't hesitate to ask on the comment section. We are here to assist you. We are here to work together. We are here to attain a distinction, and we are here to equip each other. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you had a great time with us. Have a blessed evening. I will post the question in the WhatsApp group. So if you're not in the WhatsApp group, please do tune in on our WhatsApp group so that you can be able to be assisted and to be able to receive the material which other students are getting. Till we meet again, have a good night.